7 years ago, this month. And I'll never forget that day, because that was the day that I came to a realization that prospecting over the phone and public speaking are the same thing. The ability to get up in front of someone, or the ability to call somebody on the telephone and speak your mind without the fear of retribution is a talent that few people have. It's terrible. The fear of public speaking is number one. You know what number two is? Anybody?
Yeah.
Death! Fear of rejection, absolutely. Because if people don't warm up, if I said, Dorothy, how are you? Not good. You know, where's our conversation going? Not very far. So the fear of public speaking and the fear of prospecting, the fear of how people are going to react to you, it weighs heavily in your mind. And so during this first presentation that I made, I realized that the main reason why I was scared to death of people was that I was not fully prepared in what I wanted to say. I didn't have a conviction about why I was saying it, and I sure as heck had no vision of the future as to where my words were going to land and what people were going to do with them. So it was just talk, 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 talk. And so what happened, it was pretty much our situation today. People came into the conference room, filled the table. Here I am, suddenly, uh-oh, these people are here to listen to what I've got to say. I'm here to talk about sales. I had no preparation, and I literally had lockjaw. I had a paralysis in my throat, and that's when I realized that I needed water. That was the first thing I asked for when I got here. A little water, because that helps. So that, we all have some epiphany, a life-changing moment when we recognize the problem, and then we make a conscious decision as to what we're going to do about it. So for me, I decided that I was never, ever going to call anybody on the phone or get in front of an audience and speak and not know what the heck I was saying. Now that's pressure. Now I'll take whatever it is, the reaction that I get, but as long as I'm prepared in speech to take a negative and turn it into a positive, then at least I walk away with the most important thing, and that's what I want you to walk away with today, your dignity. At the end of the day, dignity. I did what I needed to do. I picked up the phone and I dialed it. Some people were happy I called, some weren't. Some asked me questions I couldn't answer. I gave it my best bet, but it didn't come to a positive outcome. That's a good day. And it's a good day because you tried and you made an effort. And every single day that I've been in this business and throughout my 20-year career chasing the quota, I just want to come to the job every day knowing that I'm going to give it my best shot. I'm going to be prepared in what it is that I want to say. I'm going to say it with passion, and I'm going to do my level-headed best to stay standing tall at the end of the day. And if I could do that, well, eventually somebody is going to surprise you and say, I'll take it. And it happens. So, why I quote Lee Iacocca, the ability to communicate it is everything. It's not something, it's everything. Today, we have a very, very competitive environment. When you're calling people on the phone, they pick up right away as to whether or not you are worthy of further conversation. And they pick up on that very, very quickly. And another epiphany for me, just in terms of the first impression, is there anybody here that wants to make the wrong impression of themselves? Nobody. I didn't think so. The wrong first impression is created very, very quickly. And so in conversation, you need to have some sort of a catalyst that gets the conversation moving in a forward direction, and that's what we're going to talk about today. That's what the gold call is. Structured dialogue with a purpose, with a logical, orderly syntax, a flow to it, that will get you to an end point of decision on every call. What a bargain. No more maybes, no more think it over, no more send me literature. We already have somebody. All of that stuff is going to go out the window today. All right? I mean it. So this is not quite a magic wand, but I'm going to do my best. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about me and how I got into this business. I am a professional cold caller. After losing my job, unfairly I believe, I had a choice. Go get a job, or try to apply some talent I thought I had and market that as a skill to companies. So for some crazy reason, I went out and I started calling on companies that, let me do your cold calling for you. I have experience in selling software, outsourced services, I can do this, that, I'm in the legal trade, what do you say? Hire me, I'll make the calls, I'll put up with the prospects, I'll get past the secretary screen, and I'll set up meetings on your calendar so that when your salesperson shows up, they'll have an agenda and they can execute their call and hopefully fill their pipeline, they close more business. So I built this company called Deal Builders, and Pete is over here. I represent the seller. I'm like the seller's agent, a lobbyist. And what I do is that I lobby on behalf of the client to the buyer. So every single day, I would get a list from my client. I would make calls. Hi, Pete Ekstrom with ABC Company, whatever my client's company was. I'm in the business of, you know how the script goes. And most people said no. A lot of people said maybe. But a few of them, doggone it, they said sure. We'll schedule an appointment. And every time that happened, I got paid. I said, holy cow, there's money in this cold calling business. See, before, what I read in the books and listened to the tapes and walked on hot coals, you know, what the mind can conceive, it can achieve, you know, I was all enthusiastic. But when I saw the money and the reward, that's when I really liked this deal building business. So I built a bridge between the seller and the buyer, and I would say I probably represented about 100 companies around the world. And I make the market and create demand for a product. That's how I got my start. Now, about 2.5 years ago, I saw a paradigm shift in how people pay attention to other people, especially when business is on the table. Something's happening. So I started my career in the early 80s. I know I don't look that old. And it was the elevator pitch. And it got me in the door, and it got me closing business. But something I sensed was changing. No sooner did I start talking than the prospect wished that I wouldn't talk anymore. Or they were hitting me with those semi-literature, and do you have a website? How many other companies you work with? Stuff like that. We're going to talk today about something called the attention economy. We are right now in something called the attention economy. We're going to eulogize our friend today, the elevator pitch. All right? I think it's only proper that we give it a proper burial, because the elevator pitch, hopefully after you hear my presentation, will. So, the prospect knows it, you believe in it, but they're working it against you, and I'm going to show you how. Some golden rules for prospecting. All right? And then we'll get into, okay, Pete, what's a gold call? And then we'll get into your new gold call, and then we're all going to have some fun later, because my favorite part, making them cold calls with people. That's what's in it for me. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so a couple of things here. More epiphanies. I think the older I get, the more discovery I have, you know? It's like a maturation process. I was wondering why my elevator pitch was getting so much rejection so early on. So I just, for the kick of it, I went to Google and I did a search for attention. I wanted to know more about attention. How come I can't get people to pay attention to me? I think my elevator pitch is good. Why aren't they listening? And I found this book. It was a little difficult in the back to read it, but it's by a couple of Accenture consultants, Tom Davenport and John Beck. In the first 2 chapters, you really come to a full understanding as to what's going on with people in general, but people in a business sense. And what the authors describe is that right now, we are definitely in the information age. Would you agree? A lot of information out there. I mean, you're walking around with it. I mean, it's just everywhere. So we're suffering right now from attention deficit disorder because there's just so much to pay attention to. Who's got enough time in the day? Now, I work half days, 12 hours, and there still isn't enough time in the day to get it all done. So what's happened is that people have changed their behavior in terms of how they judge and make decisions as to how they're going to pay attention to something. And that decision is made in 2 seconds, not a whole lot of time. And so as I read through the book, I came to an understanding that prospects are guarding their attention like it was currency. They're treating attention like currency. So they got their hand on their wallet or their hand on their purse, making sure that any threat to stealing their currency is going to be guarded against. So they're safeguarding attention. That's how people are behaving. And you probably get it too. If somebody comes up to you in a public place, like you ever walk in a mall, and they got the flyers, right? What are they trying to do? They're trying to vie for your attention. If they just had white paper, they probably wouldn't get much of your attention. Make it flaming pink or flaming orange, and their hair is on fire, and they've got some crazy beads around their neck. They're doing a much better job of getting your attention. So the companies, according to the authors, that are excellent masters of getting attention in whatever medium of contact that they use to make contact with their buying market, are the ones that are going to stay in business. If you can't get attention, you're going to go out of business. Just not going to happen. So, coming to an understanding about attention and how much value people put on it, obviously it's had a downward effect on the elevator pitch, right? Because in 2 seconds, you can create the wrong first impression of yourself. Is there anybody here that likes to get calls at home from telemarketers about how somebody's going to be in the area to clean chimneys? Anybody? Or landscaping? Okay. So, the wrong first impression is created in just 2 seconds. Now, to back that up, you say, well, you know, what's the substance of that? A couple of years ago, a Harvard University study done by Professor Nalini Ambady proved beyond any reasonable doubt, scientifically, that the first impression conclusion that humans draw of one another is done in 2 seconds. Short study with groups of students. One saw a lecture by a professor for an entire semester. Another group of students just once a week. And then one a 15-minute video. Had him fill out a questionnaire. What do you think about the professor? Knows the subject, looks experienced, good teacher, that kind of thing. Put them all together, and the answers were identical. So it didn't matter if you saw a 15-minute video or saw the same professor once a week for the lecture all semester. The first impression was the same. Now, they took it one step further. They took the 15-minute video and cut it down to a 2-second clip. Let me give you an idea of what that's like. 1, 2. 2 seconds. Then compare those answers to the rest of the group, and those answers were the same. So, it can be said that at the handshake, or at the word hello, somebody has drawn a first impression conclusion of you. And if it's not a good one, then it's an uphill battle. Things start to get real tough, especially with strangers who know that money is in the picture and you're selling something and it costs me something and it's a bad economy. So, what I wanted to do was to, come to an understanding that, well, the elevator pitch is dead. I mean, it really is. I mean, you just don't have 30 minutes in an elevator with anybody anymore. Before, it sounds like a sales pitch, sounds like something's for sale. Usually conversations with salespeople that call with an elevator pitch, nothing really good comes of it, and it costs me some money. So, unfortunately, because I enjoy the elevator pitch. I like to talk, like to tell people about how good my company is. Largest provider of outsourced services, helps companies contain costs, improve employee morale. Does its job. We're great. We also do work for a third-party company, references, things like that. I loved it. Now you tell me how to get a sale is to shut up. I got a problem. But I just can't see somebody on the other end of the phone sitting there, drinking some water, listening to my 30-second, which really turns into 3 minutes, doesn't it? Yeah. They go on and on and on. Up on my website, there are a couple of calls. Prospect sales lesson. There's another one, here's the problem. These are calls that I get. I guess I'm a prospect for people too. And they get on the phone, Mr. Ekstrom, go call training, our company helps you. I had to record them. To just remind myself, this is not the way we want to be. No more elevator pitch. So today, what we have to do, knowing if we've learned anything from the study, learned anything from the attention economy, that the elevator pitch, forget it. We have to thread the needle in conversation. That's a needle here with some thread. Short speak, sound bites, quick questions. Prospects like that stuff, especially ones in the upper ranks, C-level executives. They all went and gave their oral exam for their MBA, so they know how to present. They have great use of the English language, well practiced in grammar. Most executives that I have met who have advanced degrees know how to carry themselves in a meeting. That's why they're executives. So when I changed the long story to the short story and started threading the needle in conversation, what that really means is that almost like cheaper, better, faster in a sales sense. What do you got? Why would somebody benefit? And what's in it for you? And if there's something in it for me, then we have the makings of a deal. And if it's a win-win together, then what do you say? So being very precise in your communications to people verbally is going to help you get from point A to point B a lot sooner than fighting those ridiculous, hold it, do you have anything you can send me? Or would you please, I need you to talk to Bob. Or some other redirection that people take in conversation to protect their, what? Their attention from being stolen. That's the game. So if we keep conversation in our dialogue short to the point, we leave very little latitude for the prospect to move. And there's a lot of physics in conversation. There's movement. There's movement in a positive direction. There's movement in a negative direction. And most prospects that you call are neutral. They're neither positive or negative. They're waiting for you to say something, and that's when the conversation moves either positively or in a negative direction. So threading the needle and using as few words as possible for maximum effect will get your sales call heading off in the right direction. And what I'm going to share with you today is that the best direction to go is negative. That's the best way to go for no. And when you go for a no, by disqualifying a prospect, the prospect will fight you and will qualify themselves. When I came up with the idea of a gold call, actually, I came up with the idea because gold rhymes with cold. Okay, cold, gold. All right, yeah, that may work. What the gold call really is a dialogue model. Puts conversation together. Now, conversation, just by definition, are thoughts and words put together in the form of delivered speech. Okay? Thoughts, words, delivered speech. That's conversation. So what the gold call does is a dialogue model for building conversation. And actually, the way it's structured, as you'll see in a few seconds, it's a catalyst for conversation, the spark that lights the fire. See, if I can just get a toe in the door, maybe a shoulder, start that conversation, pretty soon they're pulling me all the way in the office. Because it was their idea to continue conversation with me about what I might do to solve a problem for them. And I'll take those sales calls all day long. Because you must get very, very tired, as I did, jumping up and down, we're good, we're great, we do this, we do that, trying to figure out where the hot buttons are, right? You know the hot buttons? What's this hot button? I don't know. Are you hot? What button do I push? It's a mystery, I don't know, I'm not a mind reader. So the best thing for me to do is try to figure it out, like pulling it out. But I needed to pull out information with some sort of structured model that gave the prospect the impression that it was okay to talk to me. Not selling anything because there's no value yet. So I'm going to show you what that's all about. But it gets conversation going. And before we get into the actual model of how to build your own gold call, there's 3 golden rules. All right? Before you can pick up, I stuck on 2. 3 golden rules for making a gold call. I'm sure you can understand or agree with me why. Know before you call. My goodness. When I first started my deal building business and making calls, I was hungry for the client, okay? I wanted to get in business and I was hungry for the client. So I didn't ask any questions about who they sell it to, the value that people derive from buying their product. I had no idea. I just was just a wide-eyed, crazy cold caller, and I just dialed people on a list. And whatever happened, happened. So hi, Pete Ekstrom, ABC company, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, I would get hit, I'm not the right person. That ruins my show. Pete, sounds good, but I don't buy stuff like that. Bob takes care of stuff. Controlling the conversation. Many cold callers, what they do is that the telephone rings, and I know you feel this way, not all the time. I hope the prospect doesn't answer. Hope I get voicemail. You know, you get the 4th ring, oh, it's looking good for me. Looking good for me. And then you get, hi, it's Bob. Sorry I missed your call, but please leave a message. I'll get back to you. I love that. It's music to my ears. Then I work on my, leaving a message. Hi, I'm Pete Ekstrom with ABC Company. We help companies like yours, and I just right through the phone. It's an elevator pitch, and in 2 seconds, it was *6. No wonder I didn't get any return calls. It's not like a sales pitch, Oh, let me call this guy up, see what he wants to sell me. I got nothing else to do today. So, controlling the conversation is when you got to know the shot in advance. When you make the call, you have some structured dialogue, so you know what direction you're going in the call. And then here's the real epiphany here for you today. Closing for attention. That's what we're after. That's the real magic of it. Executives, especially busy ones, are probably not going to sign on the dotted line because you called. As nice as your voice sounds, as well as you've described your value, chances are they're not going to buy it through the phone. So, closing for attention, that's what we're after today. So, the questions that I wanted to ask you today to consider before you pick up the phone, make sure you got these three things established in your mind. Because that'll lower the pressure. Remember my situation? I didn't know what I was going to talk about? Needed water? Help? Okay. It's because I didn't know the audience, didn't know anything about the company. Too much pressure. So what is the profile of your ideal sales prospect? If you were going to describe this individual to the FBI, what would you say? Somebody in a key position within the company, but before that, what kind of company? So if you've done work successfully for companies in a similar business, then at the top of the funnel, that would be a qualifying criteria, wouldn't it? So if you have done work for other fleet management companies, right, and helped offset costs in the area, okay? So you have to develop a profile. What are you looking for? Company, or before the company, industry, company, and the individual. Who's most likely to take an interest in what you can do for them in the way of solving a problem? And that folds right nicely here to our second key point. What key problem? I mean, whose headache are you getting rid of? If you're pulling a thorn out of somebody's side, what's the thorn? People like to talk about problems. I don't want to talk about, what's good for them because you think so. They want the problem, the pebble out of their shoe, the thorn out of their side. So know before you call, based upon your research and your developed profile of what kind of problem can you propose solving to somebody. And what's the purpose of the call? What are you trying to accomplish? Want to stop by and see you when I'm seeing the company next door? Can I call you again? Can I come see you? What's the purpose of the call? What's the goal? What's the target? Now, we all want appointments, but I'm assuming we all want appointments for the right reason, right? Okay? I mean, we're salespeople, but even our attention has some value to it, right? Can't sell them all. As good as I think I am, I can't sell them all either. It happens. So, 3 criteria. Controlling the conversation. Now, here's the thing. Did you know that the first person to ask a question in any conversation controls the conversation? What time is it? Well, even a simple question like that causes me to go into action, to look at my watch, and then say something as to what the time is. Simple example. When you ask a question of anyone, first, that's when you give them some homework to do. Quick. So, what do you do for your company? How long have you been with the company? These are all catalysts for conversation. Prospects like to talk about themselves, so why not get them talking about themselves, the situation, their problem? I've had prospects where, when I start asking the first question, I can't get the prospect to stop. And they keep going, and they go, and they go. Now, you have to control the conversation, call a timeout and say, I appreciate you telling me about how you got in the business 30 years ago, sir. Thank you. That's great. Graduated summa cum laude. Nice, impressive. No need to go into all that deep. You have to control the conversation. You can't have runovers. I gave the answer. How many quarters are there in football? 4. So think of calls as having 4 quarters, and when the whistle blows, the game is over. So you got to be conservative about your time, and controlling the conversation will get you there. But ask the first question. I'm going to show you what that means in a second. Now, rule number 3. Before anyone can pay you for your service or your product, they got to be paying attention to you. You have to be worthy, attention worthy, in order to get people to pay attention, and to take you seriously. Don't we all want to be taken seriously? I want respect. Prospects want respect. They want understanding too. So the mindset of a good cold call is one that understands that we're closing for some more attention when I won't be calling in the middle of a meeting or catching you running out the door to catch the last train out of New York. Closing for attention, very, very powerful. What we have now, the cold call model. You can't see it in the back. I'll I'll just run it down quick. We have the icebreaker. All conversations start somewhere, right? Hi, Pete Ekstrom, pleased to meet you. Start a conversation with each one of you that I met individually today with that one. The icebreaker. Something called the lemonade statement. I'm going to cover these individually. Focus question, attention question, hey, and my favorite, the closing question, or what you'll see is going to be the scheduled question. Here's the best part. The prospect closes the appointment. Rule 4 in the Go Call. Yeah, the prospect does it. And the closing question is just tying things up nicely, putting a bow on it. Hopefully, going forward, you will start every conversation over the phone with a request for 10 seconds to explain why you're calling or to ask a quick question. Now let me give you what that sounds like, okay? Peter Ekstrom with Administaff. I'm hoping I might have 10 seconds to explain why I'm calling. That's the icebreaker. What that does to the prospect's frame of mind is that it gives them an endpoint, okay? There's closure. What's scaring them about the elevator pitch is that everyone they've ever sat through goes on forever, like Rocky 12. It's got a sequel, and it's Son of Rocky, and it goes on and on. So, the easiest thing that prospects can do to keep their attention from being stolen by this cold calling bandit is to say, send me some information. But they can't do that if I start, when they pick up the phone, I say, hello Joe, Pete Ekstrom with Administaff. I'm hoping I might have 10 seconds to explain my call or ask you a quick question. Now, if you say that right, you practice that, I found when I started my calls that way that 98% of the people, bless you, would say, sure. Some of them go, why wouldn't I? So it's interesting that it's not so much what the prospects are saying, it's also the attitudinal pitch that they put on what they're saying that's kind of like, well, why wouldn't I give you 10 seconds to explain why you're calling? Almost like I'm crazy. And they may be right. So starting conversation with a question controls the conversation. And you'll see when you ask this question that prospects are going to like, of course. Because in 10 seconds, actually it goes longer than that, but in 10 seconds, if nothing happens, what does the prospect suddenly realize? I can hang up, or then I'll ask for information, then I'll direct them to somebody else. So there's an end game, and you do that, and it completely neutralizes the fear they have of a run-on elevator pitch. So, the next most important thing, well, they're all important, but this is a picture of lemonade here. That's a lemon. If you were in the lemonade business and you opened up your first lemonade stand, anybody have a lemonade stand when they were a kid? No, I did. Sold mud pies too. So the lemonade statement simplifies or threads the needle in conversation by describing your business in its most simplest terms. Prospects like that too. Anything that you say that doesn't sound like a threat to stealing their attention, they're going to go along with you. They're going to work with you. So I found that 10 words or less works best, and I put this theory to the test like the past couple of years, because I write a lot of gold calls, a lot of scripts for people. The best ones are 10 words or less. So if you can't think of 10 words that describes the business of Administaff and its value to the buying market, think again. Spend some time here. It'll help you in networking meetings, because when you go around the table, see everybody else is hopping, jumping, we do this, we do that, yay, right? You get up with your card and say, I pull thorns out of people's sides. I'm a cold beverage for thirsty people. You certainly, if your business was lemonade, I mean, I hope not, you wouldn't describe lemonade as a product that, well, it's a juice squeezed from this yellow-looking fruit that's grown on trees in some citrus valley in California, and it's got a high fructose content, some citric acid in it, but it's rich in vitamin C and it's good for you. The question is, are you thirsty? So if you can get your business down to simple terms, like lemonade, the prospect starts to say, all right, okay, 10 seconds, explain why I'm calling, I'm in the business of doing what? What do you do? You're solving somebody's problem, you're pulling a thorn out of their side, depending if you're talking to the HR manager. I don't know if you're calling those people. If you're calling on a CFO, there's a lemonade statement for a CFO. There's one for a controller, there's one for a business owner. Lots of lemonade statement. You want to make the lemonade statement as relevant as possible. Relevancy is very important in conversation. because that's how the prospect gets it. And that's how they stay with you. As soon as there's a disconnect between the relevancy and an understanding of the purpose of your call, attention just falls right off a cliff. It dies of a heart attack right there. And you can almost hear it in the tone of the prospect's voice when their attention begins to diminish. And then what do? Well, you get out that sales training book and you start looking in chapter 4, Overcoming Objections. When prospect is apathetic, apply, no time. You got to be quick, especially if you're calling executives with 2 people in the office. What do? Barge in anyway? That's okay, sir. I got to move some stuff out of here. I got something I want to show you. Not going to work. Simple terms. I'm going to work on that today. What is your purpose to the buying market? What do you do for people? Then there's a little transition. So here's why I'm calling. Here's my question. Let me just take another couple seconds. We're running at overtime. And then you move into something called the focus question. Now, the focus question is another very important step in putting dialogue together because it attaches your prospect to the problem you can solve. Different things for different people. You've heard different strokes for different folks. Okay. So what I want to make sure of when I'm building a conversation is that the person I'm talking to has some connection to the reason I'm calling, because that helps. If it's somebody in the traffic department, probably doesn't give a rip about some general ledger problem. So I want to make sure that I ask the question and I use the word personal. That makes things personal. So how much personal attention are you giving to solving the following problem? How much focus of attention do you have upon finding ways to increase efficiencies while lowering costs for the most valuable resource in your company, your employees? How much focus, how much personal attention are you giving to whatever problem you solve? Now you know what problem you solve before you make the call. So you suspect that CFOs have a focus on the bottom line. So you can have a generic focus question that says, how much personal attention are you giving to a particular line item on your balance sheet every quarter? And you're going to get an interesting response. Don't care. Or, well, what a crazy question, asks the CFO. Of course I care about the beans. I count them every day. But what it does, it draws the prospect closer to you because there's relevance. Finally, somebody understands what the heck I'm all about here and isn't just calling, trying to persuade me to see value. That's where the elevator pitch goes in the wrong direction. It's all laced with persuasive, convincing language. Here, I'm just asking, Brandon, how much attention do you give to the production matters on the line in your factory floor? You'll tell me something. And then from there, okay? Focus question. All right. Now, since one of our golden rules is to close for the attention of the prospect, now we're in a very important phase of the goal call, called the attention question. You want to bang the cymbals. This is where you break out the pots and pans. It's New Year's Eve. This is where value comes into play, and only where it comes to play in the entire goal call. There's no value anywhere else. You are problem solvers, but you cannot attach value to a problem if you don't know what the problem is, or have some idea as to what problem you can solve. So you want to insert value here in a very clever way, hypothetically, by using the word suppose. Another question, controlling the conversation. Going to keep the ball in the prospect's court every step of the way. Suppose I could solve a problem, and I don't know if I can, but suppose I could, that would offset the cost of, improve efficiencies with, do more within a limited time, some kind of value. There's something to be had, but don't ever say you can, because as soon as you say you can, you sound like a salesperson. They're going to say, well, we're good in that area. We don't have any problems in that area. Send me some literature. Let me look it over. Give me a call back in a couple of weeks. Talk to Bob. It falls off the track. So I want to know what Brandon, told you I was going to pick on you today. Suppose, Brandon, I could solve a problem that would offset the cost of managing human resources for your company. Would I get any of your attention? Suppose I could show a rock-solid, hard-dollar ROI for managing the benefits portion of your company as it relates to its employees. Would I get any of your attention, sir? Now, guess what Brandon's got? He's got the football, and he's got to do something with it. But he sure as heck can't ask me to, if he does ask me to send literature, then I'm back in another question. Well, the purpose of my call was to figure out what I should send you, if you saw any value in my ability to solve a problem. I'm back out. Can't get me. So this is where value comes in, and the value should be relevant, and it should instantly resonate in some way. Cheaper, better, faster, higher, lower. All power words and phrases that describe your ability to solve a problem, and you use the magic word called suppose to just say, can we get together to see where we have a fit? Can I come and I meet with you to share with you the success we had at ABC Company, to see where we may have a fit, to see where we might fit in. See, I don't like prospects when they're wishy-washy, non-committal. You know, give me a call back in a couple of weeks, bad time, we'll schedule something then, you know. There's a cold handshake in it. What's that mean? Non-committal. So, but I like it because it keeps me out of the box. As soon as I go in a corner and say, I can do it, the prospect is going to immediately drill down because just their instinct causes them to do that, to come up with some sort of stopgap, some stall, some hurdle. And that's what's putting so much pressure on you right now. You're fighting off of these resistance to just open conversation, to explore the idea that maybe I could do something for you. And if you can accomplish that objective in a time with some agenda, talking points, set it up. Sound like you're a CEO. Talk like CFOs. Bits, bytes, red, black. They like that. And what it does is that it gives you a sense of immediate accomplishment. Because when you call somebody and they're responsive to what you're saying, I don't know about you, but I feel great. You know, and they're giving me some feedback. That's a conversation. It's like a tennis or a volleyball. Hit the ball over the net with the opening. 10 seconds, tell you why I'm calling? Sure. My company does this. And they hit it back. How much focus, personal focus do you have on this? They hit the ball back. And then I hit the ball back to them. And pretty soon we got a little volley going on here. And hopefully I score a point with a closed appointment. Just for my day in court. Then you can see about my tie. Maybe I got the nice shirt on. Maybe there's something about me that you couldn't find out in the initial phone call, but when I come to meet with you, you suddenly come to an understanding that Pete Ekstrom, Dorothy, Brandon, we can solve a problem. And that's what I want to be perceived as by a prospect. A problem solver. A bucket of water, putting out fires. So, again, what I find is very interesting, and if you listen to my recorded calls, you'll hear the prospect in the attention question, again, with pretty much the same demeanor they had when I asked for 10 seconds to explain my call. Why, of course? I mean, if you're telling me I'm cheaper, better, faster, you can solve a problem, why wouldn't I give you some of my attention? Once you get that, that's where the prospect closes the appointment. They recognize that if there's value, something in it for me, and somebody was clear and articulate about the business point they made over the phone, why wouldn't I? They're not going to come here and steal my attention. The easy part. The closing question. So once we have a commitment from the prospect as to giving us some more of their attention, then it's just a matter of when you're going to get that attention. When's that going to happen? Got your calendar open? What day you're looking at? Controlling the conversation. Don't lose. What happens when you take the hands off the steering wheel of a car? Goes right around a tree. In conversation, same problem. So you got to control, you got to steer this car to the end, to the finish line. That's the checkered flag. Appointment. Gets on the calendar. When can I have more of your attention? When can we meet? You're looking at your calendar. What day are you looking at? Tuesday? That's a bad day for me. Could you pick another? How many salespeople are saying that? Tuesday, 3 in the morning. Great, I'll be there. All right, desperation in your voice. Prospects pick up on that. So, busy executives, which every one of you in this room is a busy executive. You're busy, so if they pick a wrong day, oh, I was hoping you'd pick another one. Could you pick another one? I love when I hear the paper. A lot of executives still use the day timer. You hear that? That's when I know I got the close. You got to listen and speak at the same time with the go call. That's the trick. It is like walking a high wire. And you can't be looking down and wondering where the net is. Okay? It's from here to there. and it's balance, and I'm looking for the no, and I can't get knocked out because I'm willing to take any response the prospect does and turn it on them in a questioning way till I get to an endpoint of decision, an appointment or no appointment. So the closing questions or the scheduling process after you win the attention of your prospect is simply to figure out what day looks good for you, when can I stop by, your calendar. That's a whole other process. And I'll give you a little tip when you're scheduling, because some of us have problems. People don't show up. So when you're writing it down, ask the prospect if you're writing it down in pen or should you use pencil. And there's a call up on my website that has the pen or pencil close. It's pretty good. Again, you're in the business of getting a reaction out of people. That's what I want you to start thinking. You want to ring the doorbell, see what happens. You know, push the lever on the candy machine and the candy bar comes out. What's going to happen? So curiosity, your conversation, and then pen or pencil. And the prospect knows right away. Oh yeah, pen or pencil, got to erase the pen. So why not do the pen or pencil right then and there? And if there's any problem or possibility, rather, of having to reschedule a call, do it right there. So pick an alternate date. So Tuesday at 3 o'clock, well, what if something comes up? Can we look at next Wednesday at 3? Okay. See you next Tuesday. And you're done. All right, so don't take the elevator, okay? Chances are you're probably going to step into the shaft and go all the way down. There's no help there. It's dark too. Open up every conversation with a request for 10 seconds. To explain your call, well, you ask a quick question. Listen for the prospect's reaction. When they answer you in wonderment, and you know what wonderment sounds like, I wonder why you asked me that. That's when you got it. That's when it's working. Describe your business in simple terms. The gold call is like a bicycle. You got to keep pedaling. If you stop or pause, the prospect senses that too, and they're all over you. So you got to keep the dialogue moving. So describe your business in simple terms right after you get 10 seconds. Connect the prospect to the need by asking them how much personal focus they have on a problem, or how much personal attention they give to matters related to this, that, the other thing. Close for attention by inserting value into the attention question. So if I can, suppose I can do this, that, and the other thing, and do it better than you ever thought possible, would I get any of your attention? And then you're going to get another sense of wonderment again. So the prospect's going to realize in the attention question, well, if it's good for me, and it's not poison, and it'll help me grow taller, why wouldn't I? So, and then setting the appointment, very, very easy, once you win their attention. And why you need a gold call? Well, I can think of a lot of reasons, but number one, just like with my problem, right? When I showed up for that meeting, I got paralysis in the throat, didn't know what I was going to say, I was just too nervous. The structured dialogue gives me the power to drive conversation with anyone. And I know where I'm going and I know what I'm doing. Structured dialogue wins every time. It's the ad hoc dialogue that's going to get you in trouble, because the prospect system works in the opposite direction. They wait for you to say something, and then they're all over you with some sort of stall or an objection. Now, you've all heard of Miranda's rights, right? You have the right to remain silent. Okay. You see the police show? Well, same thing in sales. Anything you say can and will be used against you by a prospect. And they're waiting. I can is something that they pick up very quickly on. I can. Save money. Ooh, that's another one that hits their antenna. They're on to you. So, structured dialogue stops the prospect's spin. And every prospect, everybody's got a spin story. Some version of the truth, whether it's an outright lie or just a little white lie bender, stops the prospect from telling you what they think you want to hear to get you off the phone. They can't do it because you eliminate with structured dialogue any lateral movement that the prospect has. More control over your sales process. A, B, C, D, E, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? From the introduction all the way to closing for attention. Then you show up with an agenda, talking points, and then needs analysis, needs assessment, and then another suppose question. Well, based on everything we spoke about, suppose I could do this, take care of that. Boom, boom, boom. What do you see yourself doing? Paying any more attention? Who else has to get involved? That kind of stuff. So you can take the gold call on the sales call. Why not? And get your foot in the right door. That was another frustrating discovery for me. I spent a lot of time calling the wrong people and spending even more time trying to beat down their resistance only to find out that they couldn't buy anything anyway. Sound like a secretary screen to you? Sure does to me. So get your foot in the right door, and I think you'll be on your way to having a full appointment calendar. And you know what I really hate about being a good cold caller? I'm busy than I've ever been before. I never thought, you know, when I was just cold calling off a list, I was tired at the end of the day, had some appointments, 2/3 of them wouldn't show up. The ones that I had meetings with went nowhere. And I came back to the office at the end of the day wondering why I'm in sales and when I'm going to get lucky. You know, there's no luck. You make your own luck in this business. Control the process and what's coming out of your mouth in the direction of a prospect over the phone, magic's going to happen for you, I guarantee it. And when magic happens, the dollars start coming. And that's why I'm in this business.